You're listening to the SweetLife Entrepreneur Podcast. Simplified strategies to grow your service business and launch a life you love faster. With business mentor and entrepreneur activator, April Beach.
But I talk about them overflowing. And so like when you're saying you need to overflow with income so that you can overflow and give, it's the same analogy. It's just really about you have something to give to the world and you are cheating them if you don't get busy and be productive.
Awesome.
So
okay,
if that's something, if that's a direction you want to go,
I totally love it. Yep, that's super awesome. Let's do it.
Cool.
We try to go 35 minutes or so, but whatever we need to do. But just so you know your time frame, and I will try to help not ask as many questions as I tend to ask of our guests on the show when I get really into something. So I'll try to do that, and then I'll come back and I'll record the intro later.
Okay, excellent. Do I sound good for you?
Yeah, you sound awesome. Okay, so how do I, is it De La Garza?
Yeah, De La Garza.
Okay, awesome. Okay, let's do it. Okay, you guys, here I am with Amber De La Garza, and she is a firecracker. I have literally just totally had a girl crush on her in the last 6 months we've been talking, or 6 minutes we have been talking, because she is going to come on the show today and talk to us about some very important strategies and productivity hacks and tips and things that you have to be doing to make money. And the reason why I wanted Amber to be on the show is because she is a productivity specialist. She's a productivity expert, and she also has her own podcast, which speaks all about productivity. So today you can expect to walk away with some lessons that are going to require you to pull up your big girl britches. And I know that I will too. And I think that being uncomfortable is a really good place to be, because when we're uncomfortable at something and we know we need to maybe pivot and change, we need to take a look at the way we're doing things differently. So this isn't going to be another podcast about talking about, doing things in a certain way and trying to very, very gently increase your day to be more productive, and daisies are floating around and little water whatever ponds around your house. We're not talking about that. We're talking about serious productivity and profit. So Amber, welcome to the show. Give yourself a huge intro. Tell us, about you and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes. Thank you for having me. So, as she said, I'm the productivity specialist. I actually have a business where I coach, train, speak, write, and podcast all about productivity, specifically for entrepreneurs. I believe that everything that I believe in is that we are not born productive or not productive, that this is a skill set that would serve us well to learn and improve upon so that we can make the impact in the world that we were meant to make. I wholeheartedly believe in entrepreneurship. I'm a tough girl, but that could bring tears to my eyes. I believe that too many entrepreneurs are overwhelmed and burnt out and not serving the world as they should be because of things like crap, like email and busyness and overwhelm. And that does not need to be our reality. And so I'm on a mission to share that does not need to be our reality, that we could do the things we love to do and grow the businesses we love and have the impact we want. And my podcast is called Productivity Straight Talk. And today I'm so excited to talk about some real stuff, which is profitability and productivity and why your business needs both.
Man, me too. All right, let's do it. Dive in. Okay, so Tell us, what are the biggest problems right now? We had this conversation behind the scenes. Those of you guys that watch us on YouTube, you see the whole behind the scenes and Amber and I hanging out before we hit record. But, we talked a little bit about what we were going to talk about today and what was really important. And you said some key things about the face of entrepreneurship. Why is this so critical right now in the state of entrepreneurship as it is?
Yeah, one of the words that actually makes me kind of cringe is like hacks and strategies and about productivity, because I really believe these are behaviors and habits that need to be changed. Okay. I truly, truly believe that just as it's important to be able to communicate what you do for the world and communicate in that way, this is another skill set that would serve well so that you can lead your team, lead your business, and all of those things that really matter. I also believe, and this is just being in the trenches, is that we all have different definition of productivity. So as you introduced me as the productivity specialist, there's people listening that are like, oh my gosh, she's going to teach me how to clean off my desk and how to, clean out my emails. And while I do that, for sure, because those things can be an obstacle in truly being productive, I'm going to invite you and all your listeners to just take in my definition of productivity, if not for just this episode, just so that we're all in the same space. So I define productivity as investing your best time into your best activities. And so what that means is, as you said, putting your big girl panties on, it requires you to know what are your best activities and what is your best time. Now, all of the productivity hacks and organization and systems, there is a very important place for that, but that is not the same thing as being productive. And here's, April, why we know this to be true. Do you know that there are people that you can barely see them behind their desks and they have papers all around them and yet they're slaying their goals? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And so one does not mean the other. What that means is that entrepreneur is focused in on what is going to move the needle and get them to their goals. And at the end of the day, that's what I want for everyone. And for me, you will never see me focusing on my high value activity, being consumed by papers around me, but that's my personality. So we need to know what works best for us. And so it's our responsibility to know what environments and who we need around us so that we can be in our most productive zone more often than not.
Okay. So obviously, question, how does one identify that?
Yeah. What their most productive environment is?
Yes. So if our listeners are like, okay, yeah, that's me. I want to understand this. I want to slay this. I'm in there. I'm taking mental notes to this episode.
So how I define the best time is interruption, distraction-free, focused time. Okay. So what do you need to be focused? I'm going to share a couple examples. I came from corporate, 10 plus years in corporate. I was always in management. So I had an office with a door that was always open because that's what good managers do. And there was cubicles outside and it was loud and hustling and bustling and people walking in and out. And somehow I had trained myself to focus within the hustle and bustle and loudness. Okay. Didn't really know that at the time. Then I ventured off onto this entrepreneurship. I'm sitting in my office. The birds are chirping outside my office, and how dare they? I can't focus to save my life. The mailman comes by, and it's got my attention. The dog's wagging his tail, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why can't I focus? I was in this hustle and bustle. So I, fast forward, I'm like, I just need to figure out, like, what is this? So I actually spent the first year and a half of building my business. If I wasn't with clients, I was sitting in the corner of a coffee shop. Because that's what I needed, was that white noise and the hustle and the bustle to zone in. Now, tell me that's not weird. There's a lot of productivity people out there that are like, it needs to be quiet and silent and this and that. And I'm telling you, when we lean into the things that work for us and say that's okay, we will always be our best. Fast forward now 8 years later, there's actually playlists that mimic cafe noise that you can do right in your office. And I was like, wow, I was ahead of my game. I had no idea.
Right.
So the result is what we're looking for. Where can you find focused time?
Okay.
And
sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, so this is like a huge epiphany for some people because this tells them stop listening to what people say you're supposed to be doing and start paying attention to what works for you. That's just what it sounds like what you're saying.
I'm going to tell you that is the first aha, because I'm a big about mindset too. But when you're shooting on yourself, like I should do this, I should do my highly valuable or highly productive activity first thing in the morning. I'll give you another example. And this is how I realized this, is that my game, like everything I teach and live, is about productivity. But then when I looked at what's working, even for myself, I was like, I'm not a typical, like I don't find my productivity typical, which then led me to, well, I bet my clients don't either. And so 8 years later, I've obviously proved that to be right 100,000 times over again. There's books out there, there's all kinds of stuff that says you have to do your highly productive activity, high value activity, whatever you want to name it, first thing in the morning. Well, April, I'm like a car that needs to be warmed up. Okay. Do not sit me in front of my computer or wherever I'm supposed to do that high value activity first thing in the morning. I'm still like, I need a cup of coffee. And you know what I need? I need some quick wins. I need to get into my groove, and I need to feel that little high that you get from checking things off your list. Because what I know is that my high value activities are often 60 and 90 minutes long. Sometimes you don't get to the end of them. You're working part of a project, and that doesn't always feel good in the moment. So I warm myself up with 30 minutes of checking things off my list and getting into my groove, and then I'm disciplined enough to then start the work. And it's the focused work. It's the hard work. It's the work that's going to get us to, where we want to be in our businesses. And so that goes against the grain, right? Mm. But here's the deal. Whether it does or doesn't, people are doing that, but then they feel guilty about it. So why not find what works best for you and exploit the I'm sorry, can I say that? Heck out of it?
Yes.
Okay.
This podcast has a lot of red E's by it, so go for it. Whatever you want to say, girl.
I didn't go over game roles before. So exploit the hell out of it, because when we do, we are in our best place. And so some of you are hearing this and you're night owls, okay? Good. You own a business. Like, that is like amazing. So do your deep and most focused work after kids go to bed and you're jamming, and then you sleep in. Like, do that guilt-free. This is your business. Anyways, this is me going on a tangent. So you're going to find your best time. So to circle back and to close that loop is wherever you can find focused time. And now for many people, like myself, having clutter around me is a deterrent to being able to focus. Okay, so for people that are more like me, we need to be much more organized. Now, I do not consider organization the same as productivity, but man, if you are wasting your time looking for your keys to get out of the house, right, or that file or that document, then you're stealing time that can be used for your highly productive activities, and that is not okay. So I'm not giving anyone that says, oh, I can still focus with clutter around me a free pass here.
Okay.
You definitely don't want to be wasting time, because we're all here to do something much bigger.
Much bigger. Yeah. And so let's dive into that a little bit. So I love hearing about how you got into this, because it's so interesting how every entrepreneur has a different story. And it's very interesting, I will say, your identification of how you learn to thrive in that sort of setting. And I know for a fact that people are going to be resonating with that, being like, oh shit, there's nothing wrong with me. Okay, cool. I'm just going to run with that. So it's super cool. One of the things that we talked about too, like we're talking about productivity and profit, and that direct connection between productivity and profit. And so talk to us about what that looks like. I'm so excited for you to share these buckets and what that means, because we're talking about some really incredible awareness, some really important awareness, that in order for women, and let's talk girls, like let's kind of have like a what's that called, like the third plane or the fifth plane, where like the actor turns to the audience and talks through the movie. Let's talk for a second here about the reality of what we're doing. Yes, we're talking about productivity on a podcast. Yes, Amber's here and she's rocking our world with productivity hacks. When you guys stop listening to this podcast, you're going to be faced with one really important task, is that you need to refocus yourself after you're done listening to this episode, decide what you're going to do, and turn around and make money and keep making money. And and I don't think that we really do have enough of an emphasis on that and the reality of what that looks like. So we're talking about something super important here on the show today, and Amber's going to guide us through this, and it's going to be a big reality check for a lot of us. I know already I'm going to learn a lot. But then when you guys are done listening to the show, the deal is that you do need to be profitable and you do need to make money. And we're going to take the lessons that Amber teaches us today and continue connecting with Amber so you can do that. And so we really want to focus on the correlation today between that productivity and that profit. So bring us home, girl. Tell us all about that.
All right. So first of all, again, I'm just going to invite you to what I think, and then you can release it if it doesn't fit for you. But I believe that we are in business to make a profit. We are in business to make money. Now, what we do with that money is the amazingness. It's how we serve our communities and our families and how we change lives. And that money has a lot of meaning to a lot of different people. When we dilute our goals amongst many goals and many different things, it becomes overwhelming and it's very hard to focus in. So I believe we have one singular goal, and it's to make a specific revenue goal. And then anything underneath that is a strategy, is a project, is a tactic. Everything should lead to the one thing, which is a profitability goal or revenue goal. Now, when we throw around words like go get it, be focused, do your highly productive activity, if we were to end there, April, I think we would be leaving people with just filling in the blanks of what is my highly productive activity. And for your listeners, all being service entrepreneurs and, wearing the hat of providing the service and running the business and wearing all the hats, it can get very confusing as to what do we focus on, and everything seems important. And when we're in the weeds, meaning the day-to-day hustle, how do we know that what we're doing is making an impact? And so I'm going to share this in 4 easy buckets. When you're sitting down and I look at your calendar and I say, okay, so you've been productive, what did you do? It's going to fall into one of these buckets. Oh, and one last thing, April, we are not productive all day, every day. We are not meant to be. We won't be. We're not supposed to be. We can't be. And so when we believe that we're supposed to be productive all day, every day, and we're not, we internalize that and it feels like crap, and then it's a spiral. So I just want to get that off the table. Like, you are not going to be productive all day, every day. The energy and the focus that it takes to be productive and the activities does not leave room for the other things. Like, you really do need to check your email and you really do, need to tend to kids that are stayed home sick, and you really need to do these things. So when we release ourselves from the idea that we need to be productive all day, every day, it allows us to honor the times that we put on our calendar for the productive activities. Okay?
Thank you for that.
So you're welcome. Okay, I just lost my sweater. So I actually have a visual, and I heard you say you might be sharing this on YouTube. So I don't normally do this on a podcast. I'm going to share the visual. This visual is going to be one aspect of a download, if that we can share with everybody.
Perfect.
Oh, I'm not on Zoom. I can't share. Okay, never mind. I'm so sorry.
No. But we'll put it in here, and I'll put it over here. We'll edit the video to share it. You can email it to me later. We'll transpose this for you guys seeing behind the scenes.
So it's a pretty visual, but I will trust that my words will articulate this well for all of you listening. So I want you to think about your highly productive activities fall in one of 4 buckets. And you don't get to go to the other buckets until your first bucket is overflowing. And so you're going to be able to identify your high value activity. In the first bucket is marketing and visibility. So this is just basic business, right? Like, if nobody knows about you and nobody knows how you can help them or the thing that you do, you don't get to do the other stuff, which includes profitability in your business. And so as a, young business owner and as a service business owner, you are probably very talented at the thing that you're doing in your business, okay? And that's an amazing thing. We often get into business because we have a skill set or a talent that we want to share with the world. That doesn't always line up with that I'm an expert in marketing and visibility, or that that's comfortable, or any of those things. But I'm here to tell you that it is your job, until you have the money and the resources to hire that out. It is your job to tell people about how you can help them. And so I want you to think of this as a bucket that you're pouring into on a very regular basis, if not daily. Okay, so whatever your schedule is. Like, when I started my business, I only worked 3 days a week. No, I take that back. I started 2 days a week. And then I graduated to 3. And then I graduated to 4. And then I was like a big girl, and I was ready for 5 days. And it's not a coincidence that growing up happened as my son grew up. Okay. And so I designed that on purpose, but that was a tangent, but my point is how many ever days you're working, you need to regularly have on your schedule your marketing and visibility. And this is part of the strategy. You're going to have to figure out what works and what doesn't work and the things that you want to double down on because you're getting results, but you have to do it consistently. So once that bucket's overflowing, then you get to invest time in your sales bucket. Now, April, I'm not sure what your thoughts are about sales, but my sales are very simple. If you do not ask for the business, you do not get to consider that a sales conversation. So this is not, I had coffee and they know what I do. I do website design. And if they wanted to work with me, they would have asked.
That's right. It includes the ask.
Yes, yes. So
right.
I want you to look at, where can you have the ask? So are these discovery calls? Are they, coffee dates? Whatever that looks like for your business model, have you made the ask for them to work with you? Which means they need to respond yes or no, okay? So if I saw that on your schedule, so let's just say Amber De La Garza, the productivity specialist, is auditing your schedule, and I could see you had marketing and visibility, and then you had sales conversations. I would say you've got a pretty good week going on so far. Once you have been filling those buckets on a consistent basis, you'll keep hearing me say that. This isn't like throwing spaghetti at the wall. It has to be consistent to see results. You get to service your clients. And as your listeners are service business owners, service entrepreneurs, what happens is this is a very comfortable place to be in. And this, if I looked, is probably where they're at most of their time. They're strumming along, right? They're doing good, but they're servicing their clients. That's highly productive time. That's money, right? So for me, when I'm servicing my clients, that's green on my calendar because it means money, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So if you are working in those three buckets on a regular basis and they're overflowing, I believe you get to work in the fourth bucket. And the fourth bucket is leadership, which means you are now maybe not the only one responsible for marketing and visibility. And maybe you have somebody helping you with sales, or perhaps you've scaled and you're not the only one providing the service. But now, as your business is shifting, your highly productive activity is actually leading your team. Okay?
Yes.
So those are the four buckets. So just to recap, we got marketing and visibility, sales, servicing your clients, and leadership. If you're in those four buckets on a consistent basis, I guarantee, that's a huge guarantee, but I guarantee, even with trial and error, and even with trying to figure out the perfect pitch, and even with trying to figure out where your clients are at in marketing and visibility, you will see the results in your revenue. I get the question all the time is, not the question, actually I see it all the time, is that you get so busy servicing your clients, you forget about the other buckets. And then it's this vicious cycle of sell, do, or marketing, sell, do. And the key here is, if we had a visual, is that you truly want to feel like you've got the plates spinning, and they all need to be spinning. And you will get better and better at that, but it's about consistency in these four areas that will honestly make you your most productive self.
Gosh, I love every single one of these. It's really very, very powerful what you shared. So a couple of things, I just have a couple of statements I think I want to add to this and just kind of see how they resonate with you. First of all, I don't think it's a coincidence that you went on a tangent saying how your business grew as your son grew up. That's how my business worked as well. And I think that's the same way for a lot of listeners. And so I think that we don't talk enough about how behind the scenes affects how we model our companies. And I just need to shout out that how powerful that is. Don't underestimate it. Pay attention to that. Listen to what Amber's done. Pay attention to that in your own life and build a business model that actually works and can grow as your children grow, because that's actually what works, folks.
Yes.
So,
can I say one more?
Yes,
can I say just
totally.
one more thing on that?
Yeah.
I have found this to be so true, is that we are mothers. So not everyone here is a mom, but we're talking to moms right now.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that we think we need to model our businesses after the traditional business of Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Our business is in cycles based on our children's school schedule.
Yes.
Okay. Like I'm traveling with my son in the summer. I'm not going to, require the same amount of results in the summer as I do, say, in September after he went to school. Now, for a long time I did. I thought I needed to do it the way that, I don't know, other people did it. Maybe that's the theme of this episode. Don't do it like everyone says. But when I leaned into the natural seasons of my life because of my lifestyle, it gave me so much more permission to go full throttle in certain months and seasons and to relax and be present in other seasons. So I just wanted to add that too, that it's not just as our children are, growing up young, but it's every day of every year that we need to figure out what works best for us.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And now my listeners, see, Amber just justified my listeners that have been longtime listeners. So I take off every summer to travel with my kids. Yeah, so I take off 2 months every summer, and so I still have the podcast going during the summertime because we pre-record before the summer, but it looks totally different, and it's so much fun because I get to share after the summer, kind of behind the scenes of what running that business looks like. But you're right, it doesn't change. My kids are 12, 14, and 16, and we do some serious epic adventures and road trips like we did this summer. And so yeah, it's being okay with that and modeling companies around that. And so I think, so people don't think I'm not the only one, guys. See, I just don't think I'm totally crazy. People are like, oh my gosh, you don't work for 2 months? I'm like, oh yeah.
But that's by design. And so you probably are working really, really hard on other months just so that, it all evens out, right?
Yeah. And everything you're teaching us. Okay. So going back to these buckets, everything you're teaching us, the first bucket, marketing and visibility, submitting regular content, sharing regular content on a regular basis, and connecting with people so they know that they can trust you. So they know that you're not a fly-by-night entrepreneur. Like we see so many nowadays, so many people think that they're, in there and they want to be there and they get totally burned out, or maybe they never really connected their business to their purpose. For whatever reason, people come and go. As a matter of fact, 8 out of 10 entrepreneurs don't make it. And that's a huge statistic. And so that regular content, so you're saying the first bucket that you really recommend people fill up is that sharing regular content, doing it, whether it's daily or weekly or whatever they can commit to based on their business model.
That is correct.
Okay. And then the second one is the sales bucket. This is rad. Okay, I'm so glad you said this because I used to be, I'm getting so much better at this over the years, but I used to be the worst at this. I used to be like, oh, well, people know I'm here. People know what I'm going to do. But that ask. And I think that there is a psychological thing behind it saying, well, if I ask them, they're going to turn me down. And now the shift is, the way I look at it is like, yeah, okay, if I let them know, look at, this is what I have available to you and it's going to rock your world. If you don't want it, I'm fine with that. I'm not the one that's kind of, but I think that there is that mind shift. And so how often, and of course, maybe you probably can't even necessarily answer that question because it totally depends on the business and the business model. But when we say filling up a sales bucket, you're just basically saying that people have a constant stream of clients hitting their ask.
Yeah, and you're right. It does depend on, so for me, I will have 112 discovery calls this year.
Okay.
But that is backed into what I know my conversion is and what my specific goals of how many clients I'm going to work with. So I've done that homework to where I know that by far was not it, even last year or the year before that. And so it depends on your revenue. It depends on how many clients you intend to work with in the year. And so it's very different. But I think that the big takeaway here is, like you, I didn't always do the ask either. And that's why I came out so strong saying it's not this, it's this, because I was that and it didn't work. And it needs to be that we ask for the business. And so if I looked at your calendar, how many times are you talking to people about your services? That's how you're going to know if bucket number one's working.
Yeah.
If it's not overflowing, then we need to adjust strategies and tactics, because that means we're not talking to enough people that get the opportunity to work with you.
And what you said is so important too, is that even with those 112 or 50 or 500 or whatever discovery calls, only a certain percentage are going to convert. So you know that you have to hold more calls just because of the nature of business than that will actually convert in order to hit your financial profit benchmarks. And I love that you said that, because people also, especially new in the first point of year, especially of entrepreneurship, they're like, okay, I'm going to have like 20 calls and all 20 people are going to hire me. And that's not necessarily the case. I mean, we want to have a 98% conversion rate, but certainly when you get people on a phone call, we all know that we convert a lot better when you can build a relationship with somebody, but which is totally beside the point of what you're making. But
no, it's not. I love it. It's so true.
But I love this bucket. Okay, so bucket number 1, though, it has to be full. The marketing bucket has to be full. Bucket number 2, the sales bucket, then it'll start trickling over and it'll start flowing into the sales bucket. And then when you have that constant stream of clients coming into your ask, then we have the third one. And this is where you're making money. This is when you're serving clients. This is the time. And so can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
Based on your business model, how many hours a week do you, or a month, however this works, or a quarter, do you usually set aside to work with clients in your signature service? What does that look like for you?
So it looks very different now than it did even last year. Well, I would say so I made a big shift in Q4 of last year. I actually listened to an episode of yours that you did a huge shift in your business too, or recently.
Yeah.
And so my business was a very much one-to-one offering. I've done one-on-one coaching since day one. It was consulting. And so other than speaking, which I do frequently, there was no leverage in that. So in Q4 of last year, I had created my signature group coaching program that allows me to work with, 10 to 12 entrepreneurs at a time. And that's 90 minutes a week. So, I mean, that's like huge leverage. So if you look at the balance of how many hours I have on my schedule, it's changed because of how I service my clients. Now, there's a lot to be, there's communication and interactions between, but the actual block out of time has changed. Now, before, when I would do 12 one-on-one clients, can you imagine what my schedule looked like?
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that looked like when I did go on a month-long trip with my son this summer as well, right? Like pause, okay, hold on, I'm going to pile everybody onto one day a week that I'm going to work while I'm on the road. And I just clearly saw that I had another way to serve. So that has changed. And I think it will change for your listeners too, as they grow and mature and figure out how they can serve their clients.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so many of our listeners who've been listening for a long time, they know that I have the lifestyle entrepreneur system. And so it's like 5 phases of business development. So phase 1 is figuring out your purpose. Phase 2 is launch. Phase 3 is scale. And so everything, you guys have gone through this and you guys are listening, you know that system, everything that Amber is just explaining, that is going from like that phase 2 to that phase 3. It's like figuring out what that business model needs to look like for your life and being wise about that. But I'll tell you, and this is not popular, not you, Amber, I'm like, tell your listeners, I'm like, this is not popular. You can't scale until your buckets are filling. Like many people want to launch and they want to launch like these big, huge programs and these group coaching programs. And this is why I'm not a very popular business coach. When I share this, you have to have a following. You have to establish that expertise. And that usually comes in the form of some sort of a one-on-one for service for a certain period of time until you've reached that ceiling. And then it's time to kind of overflow into that scaling point or what, not saying that people can't launch their companies with group coaching programs, but they're already an expert at what they do because they've done it in either a speaking capacity or a one-on-one capacity or a private coaching capacity already. And so there's no time frame, there's no rules for it, but you can't scale until you're really, really, really effing good at what you do, like with one person. And so I love that you said that because that's like a perfect example of the evolution. And you host a top rated podcast. You're a speaker. Mm-hmm. You're really, really good at what you do. And you looked at your life and you're like, hey, this isn't working. I'm going to scale now. But you earn the right to be able to do that. And so I love that.
So first of all, I don't know why you're saying you're not popular because that is the truth. So I don't know, #truthbomb. You are telling the truth. I did 6 years of one-on-one coaching. I did some fiercely crazy schedules of back to back to back to clients because I was in demand. And I that's how I made my money. I was a solopreneur with one assistant, so we're totally, I feel like we could jam forever. So it's not by accident that my word of the year, I don't know if you guys do that or know that, was scale last year. So the fact that you just named it scale, I was scaling in every aspect of my life. I got home support. I got a nanny. I got a personal assistant. I did group coaching. I went from one-to-one to group coaching. So my word and what ran the theme of my year was scaling personally and professionally. And I worked my tail off to build that, like you said, over 6 years. And the only reason that my program is successful is because I have time tested in and out of hundreds of entrepreneurs, coaching them in the trenches. Mm-hmm. And I took a step back and I said, what is the common issues? What are the challenges? How do I solve them? And what does that look like if I were to teach it on a scale? And only with that kind of experience would I have ever been able to create something that was actually valuable for them versus valuable for me, that I was only looking to serve more than one person in an hour and a half. Yes. So, and I was not willing to do that until I was certain that it was solid, proven, whatever that looked like. And it can only be done through experience.
Yes.
Yes to everything you said as well.
Yes. Okay. All right. And then the fourth bucket is leadership. And that is true. I mean, you guys got it. You have to get to the point where you have a team. I don't care if you have one person. I don't care if you have 10 people. I have a team of 4 now. I've had a team of 6 in the past. I know about me that I'm a terrible delegator. That's my biggest flaw. I suck at leadership, but because I identify with that, I try really hard to put systems in place and pay attention so that other people can take it over and make it better. And so what you're teaching us today is that first, that marketing and visibility bucket has to be full. Then we go to the sales, then we go to the service, and then you can have the opportunity to grow your team, which again, I love so much because that aligns. That's like phase 3 into phase 4 of the SweetLife lifestyle entrepreneur system. So it's like totally aligns to everything you're saying here. It's so awesome. Great. So what's the biggest takeaway that you want people to get from this episode? We talked about so much. You guys, the show notes for this episode, we'll have everything in here for you. We'll have a recap. I'll get Amber's pretty graphics so that we can share that. What's the most important thing? If they can take away one thing and focus on that, what's the one thing that you want them to do?
Yeah. So with your permission, I'll close it out like I close my own podcast out. Okay. So no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So you are probably running or picking up the kids or driving in the car, shaking your head saying, April and Amber, that was a great conversation. Yes. But you have got to go take action. And so along with the pretty graphic is a worksheet that has a grid with these 4 buckets and an other bucket. And I want you to have it at your desk. And I want you to put in there what types of activities would be considered a check mark. Yes, it's marketing. Yes, it's sales. Yes, it's servicing my client. Because if you literally left this episode and took the action to get extremely clear about what your productive activity is and then committed to that, it would be business and life changing. So I will share that. If with your permission, you can get it at theproductivityspecialist.com/SweetLife. All one word.
Yay.
And you'll be able to download that worksheet to really take this home. I've only known you for a little bit, April, but I can tell you're all about an action taking. And I think we can both agree that is where the results happen. So while I've loved having this conversation, it would sadden me to make it a waste of your time as we are talking all about productivity. So go take some action, ladies.
Awesome. Way to go.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time. We totally appreciate it.
Thanks, April. Bye-bye.
Bye.